He is Rece Davis of the Worldwide Leader in Sports. How are you, Rece?
Rich, I'm doing great. It's nice to talk to you again.
Same here. It's been way too long, man. Next week is my 20th anniversary of my first Sports Center I did with Larry Beal. And it's 20 years, and you came in the year before me at ESPN.
Yeah, I came in March of '95. I still remember my first one was with Brett Haber, and I think I just passed my 20-year anniversary of that, too. So I hadn't realized that, but now that I think back, it has been about 20 years since I did my first one, and you too. So
yeah, I know.
It's, the time gets away from us, doesn't it?
Yes, here's the difference, though, Rece, is you look exactly the same. That's the difference between me and you.
Yeah, but I can't run the 40 anymore like you can.
Well, I guess that's the way I'm trying to make up with the aging process here. But I mean, again, it's just great to chat with you. You are in Washington D.C. The ACC tournament hits another day here. Notre Dame with a win over Duke to bounce Duke, one and done in the tournament. What do you think this means for the Irish and for the conference as a whole?
Well, the number one thing, Rich, is Notre Dame is on the cusp of doing something that's never been done before. If they could beat North Carolina tonight, they would be the first team ever to beat Duke and Carolina in consecutive ACC tournaments, and they would extend their winning streak against Duke and Carolina to 6. The last program to do that was Wake Forest when they had Tim Duncan. Notre Dame has proven to be a terrific addition to the ACC. I think they bring some of that old-school Big East toughness. Mike Brey really keeps his team loose around tournament time, have dangerous offensive guys. That said, I think this is a really tough matchup for them tonight. But what's on the line from a conference standpoint is, probably the opportunity to have 2 1 seeds. If Notre Dame wins tonight, North Carolina is unlikely to be a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. But if North Carolina and Virginia were to play in the championship game, I think there are plenty of people who believe that opens the door to both of those teams being 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament.
So, but I'm a Big Ten guy here. Michigan State looks poised again. What do you think about the top seed chances of all the big programs to make a run here, Rece? Who do you like? Who do you like?
Rich, I think Michigan State, if they win the Big Ten tournament, will be a 1 seed because I happen to believe they're the best team in the country. They, in addition to being deep, they have a dude. They have Denzel Valentine, a go-to guy. I believe they're the favorite to win the national championship. But this is a year in which we've seen a record number of top 5 and top 10 teams lose. Michigan State certainly has stumbled at times. I don't believe them to be invincible. But I think among this group of teams that they are the best. But I also happen to think that out of the Big Ten that Indiana is a Final Four caliber team as well. I was not sold on them early, but I called Big Ten games this season on Thursday night, got a chance to see them in person a couple of times. And as the season went along and as they improved, I have become sold on Indiana, too, as a contender to make it to the Final Four.
Yeah, and they're taking on my alma mater right now as we speak, Rece. And I guess this is a page out of our former colleague Craig Kilborn, a moment for me. Does Michigan need to win this game to get in? What are you hearing from Lenardi and the bracketologists?
I think they do. I think that Michigan does need to win the game in order to get in. They need more bullet points on the resume. Certainly, they've got a capable team. They've been hurt by injuries at times, but I think they need a big signature win. One of the interesting things, Rich, about the way this unfolds is we have Greg Shaheen advising us this time of years, and if that name's not familiar, for more than a decade, he was the executive vice president of in the NCAA organization and oversaw the tournament selection process. And Greg said this morning that 33 of the 36 at-large teams had been filled. Now, that doesn't mean that teams can't be picked off or some of those wouldn't be bounced if another team were to win an automatic qualifying spot and push them down the list a little bit. But he thinks right now, as it stands, that there are 3 spots available and 21 teams vying for them.
That's a game of musical chairs, if I've ever heard one right there. Wow.
Exactly. And my judgment would be that Michigan is in that group of 21 vying for the 3 spots. Right. And so I think they need a bullet point on the resume.
So it's last 3 in right now, is what he's saying.
Yeah, that's the way he sees it right now. And I guess that probably his resumes get tweaked. I don't know that they get overhauled as much as sometimes we think and the way we react to something we've seen most recently. But resumes get tweaked this time of year, and I guess that could change the thinking. But, this is more, I think, about bracketing and following their procedures and making sure teams are in the right spots than it is inclusion at this point, barring upsets in conference tournaments or some team ripping off, a couple of quality wins late.
Rece Davis joining me from the nation's capital, where ESPN has coverage with Rece of the ACC tournament. Big game, as you mentioned, tonight between North Carolina and Notre Dame. So when people are filling out their brackets Sunday, give them something to look for. Who is somebody that can go round of 16, round of 8, possibly, that few are talking about right now? Who do you like, Rece?
I'm gonna tell you. I think when you have teams like this, I look for teams that have explosive offensive players and pros. A team that's going to be seeded down the line a little bit. And I know people will get mad if they pick them and they lose in the first round. I think Cal has an opportunity. And the reason for that is they've got a couple of guys who are potentially going to be lottery picks. They've struggled a little bit away from home, as you might expect from a relatively young team. But they've got a guy named Jaylen Brown and Ivan Rabb, both of whom are, potential high draft picks. Jabari Bird has had good moments for them. They can be explosive. So if you're looking in a year in which we've seen a lot of off-the-radar teams pull upsets, I like Cal to have an opportunity, assuming, if they get a good draw, to make a little bit deeper run than you might expect.
And I mentioned earlier this week, I'm just looking forward to this time of year when somebody like Buddy Hield can take control of a national consciousness here. I mean, the way he has been playing all season long, and again, he had 39 against Iowa State in the first conference tournament game last night. I just love the way this kid plays, and I'm wondering what you think about his opportunity to be most outstanding player, the MOP of this whole shooting match here. Rece.
I think he's got a great opportunity because he is an electric player, and I think we're kind of seeing, don't you think, that we're seeing a little bit of the trickle down from Steph Curry and the way he's playing in the NBA to a guy like Buddy Hield, who has great range on his shot, who has the green light to take them, who's an explosive offensive player. He's certainly a different player than Steph Curry, and I'm not trying to say that Buddy Hield is Steph Curry. But I am saying that in terms of the three ball as opposed to flying in for the dunk, although Buddy had a pretty impressive alley-oop dunk against Iowa State last night, I think that he's got a great opportunity, as do a couple of other seniors. And in an era in college basketball when we've been fascinated by the one-and-done guys and sometimes bemoan that fact, you have Buddy Hield at Oklahoma. You have Denzel Valentine at Michigan State, and you have Malcolm Brogdon at Virginia, all seniors and all with great opportunities, I think, to be that face of the tournament that carries them through to Houston and to vie for that most outstanding player honor.
Yeah, and I appreciate you, again, calling in when you got so much going on, and it allows me to remain calm while Michigan plays Indiana, and I also don't have to keep another eye on my network, NFL Network, which is live with Albert Breer, for crying out loud, at Ohio State Pro Day right now. I mean, it's a little bit too much for me to handle, Rece. You're getting me through this thing, and in terms of just college football, just this time of year makes me think, shouldn't we have 8 teams in with college football, Rece? Shouldn't we get like an 8-team situation going and pushing that forward with folks, up your flow chart there at ESPN and the college presidents? You think
the day is going to come for that, Rich? I don't think now's the time, just to be honest. I mean, everything is fluid and is going to expand and evolve. But I think 4 is a really good number for the college playoff at this point in time, because I think it maintains a lot of the exclusivity of making it there. The regular season in college football, in my judgment, is still the best regular season in sports. The fans pay a lot of attention to what happens outside of their own region and away from their own team. I think there's some magic in that. At some point, we're going to need to expand the playoff. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. But I would like to see them stick at 4, maintain the exclusivity of making the playoff for a while, until the appetite comes. And probably the other factor, Rich, is, and I don't want to take us off the rails too far, But if you add another round and you generate a whole lot more revenue again, then the question's going to come up again. What are you going to do for the players? And I think that question has to be answered or should be answered before any talk of expansion goes any further.
Well, I mean, obviously, if you're going to give a larger pie, a piece, I agree, does have to be given to the kids at some point in time, and that's for a longer show than just this 3-hour one to figure out. But in terms of keeping the regular season important, just as a for instance, had Michigan beaten Ohio State, for instance, we know that didn't even come close to happening, even with an 8-team playoff field, Ohio State, that would have been an open question with 2 losses for them to get in for something like that. Remember, there was that Baylor, Oklahoma State round robin that was going on last November. I think that would still have been of keen importance, even with 4 more playoff seats available. Rece?
No, I see what you mean. I mean, and a lot of people have that perspective on it, and I understand it. I just think that right now that you're going to run into just as many seasons in which you're sort of scrambling to fill out the 8, and that will be a clear delineation from the top 4 to the rest. There are going to be some years. The example I always give, and it was the warning of the unintended consequence, I guess. If you go back to arguably the greatest championship game of our lifetime, the Texas USC game in 2005, if you'd even had a 4-team playoff that season, you would have included 2 teams from the Big Ten, both of whom had 2 losses, in Ohio State and Penn State, and both were capable of knocking off Texas or USC. Now that's okay because it's competition, it's a playoff, and that's what happens. But I guess my point in saying that is that there are seasons in which there is a delineation between teams that are clearly the best and the rest of the field. And right now I think that 4 is pretty good, although this past season, to me, amplified some of the problems with fixating on conference champions because you get into the whole deserving versus best. Clearly, Michigan State was very deserving and most deserving in the Big Ten of being there.
Yes.
But they just upset Ohio State. They weren't better than Ohio State. They just happened to upset them that particular day. And, but you get rewarded for that. So with an 8-team, I mean, to your point, with an 8-team playoff, I guess Ohio State would have made it anyway.
They would have.
But I still like the 4 because it gave that game in Columbus on that Saturday a monumental importance.
Rece, have a great broadcast. Have a great March Madness. I'd love to catch up with you more when maybe during the tournament or thereafter.
That'd be great, Rich. Best to your family.
Yeah, best to Lee, too. That's Rece Davis.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.